I want to tell you a story about what it's like, or what it was like, to be a young stand-up comedian going on the road. And I want you to think of like 1998, and I'm 24, and I'm obviously slimmer, and yeah, and I thought going on the road was going to be this incredible experience, and I was seeking some adventure just to see America at the ground level and tell jokes, and I wanted to incorporate what I learned from the different people and places that I went to. And I quickly found out that driving hundreds of miles a day in your car to get somewhere to tell jokes to people you had nothing in common with was awful. At a certain point, I felt like I was not a stand-up comedian. I felt like my job was to drive 300 miles, and I had to tell jokes before I could sleep. But I also took a great deal of pride by telling people I am a professional comedian. I am on the road. When I fill out my tax documents, I put professional comedian on there, and that was a lot of pride in telling people that. But what they didn't realize was I was going on these one-nighter tours through the greater Pacific and Southwest of America, which meant I could drive 300 miles, do a show, go back to my hotel room, get up at 5, 6 in the morning, get in my car, drive another 200 miles, do a show, and that went on for 2-3 months at a time. Yeah, is right. But I wanted to succeed, and I wanted to see what America was all about. And I quit my job, and I just had my car, and all I owned was the car, the things that I kept in the car, and my jokes. And I would drive out there, and I can tell you, if you're staying at the Thunderbird Motel in Great Falls, Montana, I can tell you the easy way in, because I've been there so many times. I can tell you how to get from Coos Bay, Oregon to Wyoming in less than 6 hours. It can be done. I don't recommend it. Meth might be involved. I'm just saying it was a different time. And a lot of times I would show up at these places and tell jokes, and I started to get a little upset at what I was encountering out there. Because a lot of times I would be introduced like, okay, your next comic, he's from San Francisco, so you know, AIDS. Like, that's what I was encountering. I wish that was not true, but so many times I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna say I'm from San Francisco anymore. And then I wanted to like, okay, I wanna try out the smart stuff because all crowds are smart. They're not. Little by little, I was whittling away anything that was unique, and it was just dick jokes and dating is weird, and of course they were like, he's great, you know? And I remember one night I was in Montana, and the audience was upset that they couldn't play foosball during the show. And I really started to wonder what I was doing with my life. And of course, I was also heartbroken. You can't have a young man discovering America on the road without a girl and heartbreak. I was working at this restaurant at a place called Walnut Creek outside of San Francisco, and I met her, and we fell crazy in love, and she thought it was so cool that I was a comedian. And of course, you can't have a great love story without the girl saying, oh, I'm going to Europe for 6 months, good luck. That broke my heart, right? And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go on the road and I'm gonna show what an amazing comic I am. And when she comes back, I'm gonna win her back by bringing her to a show. Oh, so naive. But I hit the road. And like I said, it quickly got a little sad, right? And I remember I was going through the Four Corners region of America, the Southwest, and it was about 2 weeks before New Year's, and I had some time off. Not a lot of crappy one-nighter shows booked around that time, so I thought, you know what? I'm gonna give myself a vacation. I've always had a fascination with the desert. I've never really gotten a chance to see it. I think it comes from being a huge Star Wars fan as a kid. I always felt like I had a lot in common with Luke Skywalker, you know? He didn't know who his father was. I was adopted. Right? He craved adventure and meaning, and I craved adventure and meaning. He lived in a hole in the ground. I grew up in Illinois. We had a lot in common. And I looked on the map and I realized, like, okay, I could take Highway 80 all the way home and just get back to San Francisco, or I could turn off and I could go see Arches National Park in Moab, Utah. And in fact, I could keep going and I could see Monument of the Gods, Valley of the Gods, right? These things that you've seen in every Western that's ever made, these giant sandstone structures that taper off and just rise elegantly into that just incredible blue sky. And I'm like, all right, I'm close. I'm going to go see it. So I decided, all right, I'm going to do it. And I'm in my car, and I'm headed down Highway 666 to see Monument of the Gods, which, hilarious already, right? Like when the map maker is like, all right, how do we screw the Native Americans? Let's call it 666. That, like that's their gods, not our gods. Like they've actually changed the name of 666. But I'm on that road, and I'm headed that way, and it's, the sun is starting to set, and I can see this gorgeous sandstone colors, every shade of red you can imagine, and the shadows are starting to get longer, and I'm like, okay, I got to be careful, I got to slow down. Everything out there is open range, which basically means the cows just wander everywhere, right? So you got to slow down. There's no fences, the cows are in the road, and I'm slowing down, and I'm like, okay, I got this figured out, all right? I'm going to get to Monument of the Gods right as the stars come out. It's going to be amazing. This is what I've been looking for. And I'm getting maybe a little cocky, and as I'm coming down the road, I'm like, is that a cow? That's a cow. Slow down, go around it. All right, long shadow. Oh, no, that's just my brain playing tricks on me. And I start to accelerate a little bit more. Maybe I'm up to 30 miles an hour, and I'm looking in the middle of the road, like, what is that? Oh, no, that's not a cow. That is a cow. And I swerve at the last possible second, but not before my car hit the cow in the face. I know, everyone's always sad for the cow. How was your hamburger tonight, crowd? Yeah, the windshield just spiderweb cracked instantly. And I didn't really have time to be aware of that because a cow is like a 2,500 pound animal, and it pushed me off of the road into the gully, and the car started to just turn around like that. If I had a passenger, the passenger would have lost their legs. That just got sheared off by the rocks. And then my car hit a rock, and the car tipped over end over end, and I vividly remember clinging to the steering wheel thinking like, oh God, this is bad. And that's when the gas tank exploded. And I thought, oh, this is bad. And then the car comes to rest facing right side up in the direction I just come from. Weird place to laugh, but okay. Choose your moments, crowd. But I kind of did feel like maybe that's the ancient gods, like, you're not ready to see what we have. Turn around, young man, and go back the other way, right? And I was in shock. Unknown to me at the time, there were two hunters that were in a Winnebago that were coming towards me. And out there, you can see stuff for just tens of miles at a distance. They saw the whole thing happen. And one of the hunters runs up to the car, sees that I'm just clinging to the wheel sitting there, and pounds on the window and just goes, "Are you okay?" And here's the kind of shock I was in. I'm holding the wheel. I turn to look at him, crack the window an inch because he's a stranger. And I tell him, "I'm fine." Roll the window up and put my hands back on the wheel. And I think this guy was like, okay, what? So he pounds harder on the window and he's like, dude, you got to get out of the car. I think it's going to catch on fire. And it all floods into me. What just happened, right? Like, oh my God, yeah, the car's on fire. Not just the car, everything I own is in the car, is the car. My life is on fire. So I jump out of the car and I immediately start pulling everything I can, and stuff is everywhere in my car. I'm pulling clothes, I'm pulling journals, I'm pulling CDs out, I'm pulling everything out and just making this pile of worldly possessions behind me, right? And that's when I hear the unmistakable sound of a shotgun. Yeah. And I turn around and there's the guy, and he's just like, if you hit a cow, we got to put it out of its misery. Yeah, he seems really happy about it too, okay? And for a second, I'm like, just put me out of my misery, right? But I'm like, okay, you're right. And he's got a flashlight taped to the barrel of the shotgun. And as he's walking down the road, he's giving me a tour of everything that has come off my car. He's like, it looks like a spark plug. I'm not sure what that is. That looks like it could have been a wire to your ignition switch. Tears for Fears CD. Gay. Like, wait, hey. This is like the worst curated tour of my worldly possessions. He's judging my music and telling me about car parts I don't understand. And I'm going to tell you right now, we never found the cow. Okay, the cow is out there somewhere, hopefully at its own storytelling show tonight, relating. There was a loud bang and a light, and I got away, and But what we did find in the center of the road was the largest, freshest, stinkiest pile of shit that I've ever seen in my life. And that is when I have a true existential crisis. I don't know if you've ever truly seen an existential crisis when someone is laughing and crying at the same time, but I fell to my knees laughing and crying, just like, don't you see it's a pile of shit and all that stuff, that's a pile of shit, it's all shit, that's shit, this is shit, it's all shit, man. And the hunter with the shotgun has no emotional intelligence to process this. So he does the only thing he can do. He just puts his hand on my shoulder and literally goes, there. There. But in that moment, there was a great truth. The pile of cow shit and the pile of my worldly possessions were equally important to me, which meant it wasn't important to me. In this moment, neither one of these things was going to get me out of the situation. Everything was gone. I'm stuck in the middle of the road, and my only source of comfort is a man with a shotgun who's taped a flashlight to it. Other people had passed. They saw what had happened. They got to a hotel. They called the highway patrol. I was on the Utah side when this happened. It took 2.5 hours for the state trooper to get on out there. If I had been injured in any way, I probably would have bled to death or worse. And when the trooper gets out there and he looks at the damage and he surveys the car and he sees the pile of worldly possessions, he says to me, hey, there's not a hair out of place, man. You are lucky to be alive. And I was just like, yeah, but I can't do what I was going to say I can't do what I love anymore, because if I didn't have the car, I couldn't be on the road. But I couldn't say it. I couldn't say it because I didn't feel it. I didn't love what I was doing. I hated being out on the road. Seeing America at the ground level is awful. Trying to make people laugh who you have nothing in common with was awful. I didn't love any part of this of my life, and I was so fucking miserable that it took all of that to make me realize I can't keep doing this. We put together a bunch of stuff in my backpack. Cop puts me in his car, and we drive into Mexican Hat, New Mexico. Which sounds racist, but, they couldn't call it sombrero. It's like Mexican hat. That's what they called it, right? There's one hotel there, and the trooper walks me in and says to the front desk person, hey, you need to give him the out-of-towner hit a cow rate. And I'm like, it happens that often? Like, maybe we should do something about that. I have about $150 on me in cash, right, which was a lot of money for me at that time, and that room took about $40 right there, and I sat in my room that night, unable to sleep. All I had was the backpack of worldly possessions and the remaining money, and that was it, and I wept. I wept in a way that I had not cried since I was a child. And I pulled out my map and I looked at it and I reasoned like, okay, the only way out of this is I'm gonna have to hitchhike up to 80, hopefully get another ride from there, get into Salt Lake City. I have just enough money to get a Greyhound bus ticket, and if I'm lucky, I will be home by New Year's. Maybe I can plead to get my job back at the restaurant. Like, all right, that's my plan. I got picked up, got home, got to the restaurant. I begged them, like, listen, let me just pick up shifts, something. It's New Year's. You know I'm a good cook. Help me out. And I'm like, all right, Joe, listen, we love you, but if you come back, yeah, you're gonna be cooking, and it's a New Year's, and we hope that's okay. I'm like, I'm happy for it. And that night, I'm on the grill, and it's steaks and hamburger and T-bone. It's cow. It's all cow. And all the waiters and waitresses are like, why are all the steaks so thin? And the waitress, who I was crazy in love with, who I'd sent letters to knowing that she was in Europe, had come back early. And she was there that night. And she saw me, and we talked, and we made plans to get together that week and maybe rekindle stuff. And I vividly remember thinking, had I not hit the cow and went through all of that, I would not be there that night to see her. And you can explain that to yourself in any way you want, right? Maybe that's God, maybe that's coincidence, maybe the universe sometimes looks down and goes, you're not happy, but you're too stubborn to admit it, and I need to course correct you. Cow, whatever. I just know that it changed where I went in comedy and where I went in life, because now I didn't have the car and I wasn't doing those shitty gigs, and I got to stay in San Francisco and I got to grow and I got to prosper, and I was encouraged to do the kind of comedy I wanted to do, and that was the best thing for me. But that is not the best part of the story. Because for me, the real moment, the part of the story that even as I start to tell you, I get goosebumps about. There was a moment when I'm out there in the desert, and it is such a bright blue sky that it hurts to look at. And the stone is so beautiful and so red, and there's nothing out there. It's so quiet and still, I can hear the flapping of bird wings. And all I have is a backpack with my worldly possessions. And every 20 minutes or so, I take the backpack off, because it's heavy, and I open it up and I look at everything and I start to make a decision about what is valuable and what is too heavy to bring with me. And I start leaving stuff behind in the desert. Don't need another pair of shoes, I just need these pair of shoes. 20 minutes later, well, this journal only has 5 pages filled, I'll get other journals, leave that behind. Well, Tears for Fears, they'll put out another album, leave that behind. I just left a trail of stuff through the desert because I didn't need most of it. And I came down to essentials, right? Like some music I really loved, some journals I put some deep thoughts into, some clothes that were important to me for personal reasons. And I remember at a certain point, out there alone, when no car was around and I didn't have to put my thumb out, just thinking everything is brand new. It has to be. I've lost everything. I'm alive. Everything is physically fine. I get to start over. Thank you.
Santa Sofia.